Apparently, finding out your husband's baby emergency isn't actually his baby emergency is the kind of plot twist that makes you question every Hallmark movie you've ever watched. There I was, 3:22 in the morning, watching my 35-year-old husband throw on yesterday's jeans while explaining that his ex-girlfriend's water just broke and he promised to be there. Promised. Like they had some kind of birth plan together. Like I was the idiot who didn't get the memo that our marriage came with a surprise paternity subplot. Spoiler alert, the baby wasn't his. But the betrayal? Oh, that was 100% authentic, certified, and mine to keep. My name is Ruby, 33 years old, marketing coordinator at a mid-sized tech firm in Raleigh, North Carolina. And exactly 9 months ago, I made the catastrophic mistake of believing in second chances. See, 10 months back, I discovered my husband Graham had been having an emotional affair with a coworker named Brooke. Nothing physical happened, allegedly, but the text messages I found were intimate enough to make me want to throw his phone into the News River and maybe him with it. Messages like, "You really get me in ways Ruby doesn't," and "Sometimes I wonder what my life would be like if we'd met first." Real soul-crushing Hallmark movie villain stuff. We tried couples therapy. 6 miserable weeks of sitting on an overpriced beige couch in some therapist's office in North Hills, while Dr. Patricia asked us to explore our feelings and rebuild trust through vulnerability. Graham cried twice. I cried once, then decided crying was giving him too much satisfaction. By week 6, Dr. Patricia suggested something radical. Graham, take 2 weeks away, stay somewhere else, process your feelings, decide what you really want. So in mid-May, Graham packed a duffel bag, kissed me on the forehead like I was his grandmother, and drove to Charlotte to stay with his brother, Seth. I stayed in our 3-bedroom suburban rental in Cary, stress-eating Ben and Jerry's Half-Baked, watching true crime documentaries, and compulsively checking his Instagram stories for signs of suspicious activity. Healthy coping mechanisms? Never heard of her. He stayed at Seth's for 4 days. Then he texted me, "Need more time. Going to Wilmington for a few days to clear my head. Beach helps me think. I love you." I responded, "Okay." What I should have responded, "Going to the beach alone sounds suspiciously like the setup for a bad decision. But sure, go ahead and add oceanfront property to our list of marital disasters." Graham came back at the end of May. Tan. Apologetic. Armed with a bouquet from Harris Teeter and a speech about how he'd done a lot of soul-searching and realized what really matters. He said he wanted to fight for us, said he'd cut off all contact with Brooke, said he loved me and only me. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. So I did. We rebooted, started date nights again, Tupelo honey for brunch, movie nights at the Regal and Crossroads, even a weekend trip to Asheville in July where we pretended to be the kind of couple who hikes and drinks craft beer, without resentment simmering beneath every conversation. The last 9 months were us rebuilding. It wasn't perfect. There were moments I'd catch him on his phone and feel my stomach drop. Moments he'd be distant and I'd wonder if I was sharing him with someone I didn't even know about. But we were trying. I really thought we were okay, until Wednesday morning, February 4th, 3:22 a.m. His phone started ringing. Not just once. 3 times in a row. Each ring louder and more aggressive than the last, like whoever was calling had decided sleep was optional for everyone involved. I woke up disoriented, reaching for my own phone to check if it was some kind of emergency alert. But no, it was his phone, vibrating violently on his nightstand. Graham bolted upright, grabbed it, saw the name, and went completely white. The kind of white you see in horror movies right before someone realizes the call is coming from inside the house. "Who is it?" I whispered, my voice still scratchy from sleep. He didn't answer, just stared at the screen like it was showing him his own obituary. Then he answered, "Hello?" The voice on the other end was frantic. Female. Loud enough that I could hear fragments even though the phone wasn't on speaker. "Graham, water just broke. Hospital. Baby's coming. Can't do this alone. You promised you'd be here." My brain struggled to process what I was hearing. Water broke. Baby. Hospital. Someone was in labor. And calling my husband. At 3 in the morning. expecting him to show up. Graham's face went from white to gray. He swung his legs out of bed, already reaching for the jeans he'd tossed on the floor the night before. Shelby, calm down. I'm coming. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Shelby, his ex-girlfriend. The one he dated for 3 years before we met. The one he swore he hadn't spoken to since 2017. I sat up fully now, adrenaline replacing the fog of sleep. Graham, who the hell is Shelby, and why is she calling you about going into labor? He pulled on his jeans, hands shaking, didn't look at me, grabbed a t-shirt from the closet, shoved his feet into sneakers without bothering to tie them. Ruby, I can explain. I need to go right now, but I swear I'll explain everything when I get back. Explain now, I said, my voice sharp enough to cut glass. Explain why your ex-girlfriend is in labor and calling you at 3 a.m. like you're the damn father. He froze, turned to face me, and in that moment, I saw it. The guilt, the panic, the look of a man who'd been caught in something so big, so catastrophic, that no amount of couples therapy or Harris Teeter flowers could fix it. Ruby, he said, voice cracking. I messed up. I messed up so bad. But right now, she needs help, and Is it yours? Silence. The kind of silence that answers every question you didn't want to ask. I don't know, he finally whispered. Maybe. He grabbed his wallet and keys, muttered something about being back as soon as he could, and walked out the door. I heard his car start, heard him peel out of the driveway like he was fleeing a crime scene, which, in a way, he was. I sat there in our bed, in the house we'd rented together, surrounded by the life we'd supposedly rebuilt, and realized something. I didn't know my husband at all, and whatever came next, it was going to burn everything to the ground. I didn't sleep, couldn't sleep. Sat on the couch in our living room, wrapped in the throw blanket his mother gave us last Christmas, staring at the front door like it was going to spontaneously explain what the hell had just happened. My mind was racing through every possible scenario. None of them were good. All of them ended with me setting something on fire. Metaphorically speaking, of course, because I'm not trying to catch a case. At 6:43 a.m., I heard his car pull into the driveway. I didn't move. Didn't get up to meet him at the door like some dutiful wife in a 50s sitcom. Just sat there, waiting, a statue made entirely of rage and sleep deprivation. He walked in looking like he'd aged a decade overnight. Eyes bloodshot, hair sticking up in 17 different directions, still wearing those untied sneakers. He closed the door quietly, like tiptoeing would somehow soften the nuclear bomb that was about to detonate in our living room. Ruby, he started, voice hoarse. We need to talk. I raised one eyebrow. Oh, now we need to talk? Not 9 months ago? Not when you were playing house with your pregnant ex-girlfriend behind my back? Now. He flinched. Deserved it. Sat down in the armchair across from me, strategic choice, putting furniture between us, and put his head in his hands. It's not what you think. Graham, I think you got your ex-girlfriend pregnant during our separation and hid it from me for 9 months while I stupidly believed we were rebuilding our marriage. Please enlighten me on what part of that is not what I think. Silence. Then finally he started talking. When I went to Wilmington in May, mid-May, I interrupted. You left on the 15th, a Tuesday. Keep going. He blinked, surprised I had the dates memorized. Of course I did. I'd spent 9 months cataloging every moment of our reconciliation, every date night, every time he said he loved me. Turns out I was building a timeline of lies. Right. Mid-May. I was at this bar near Wrightsville Beach, the Oceanic, just sitting there, drinking, trying to figure out my life. And Shelby walked in. What a coincidence, I said flatly. Your ex-girlfriend just happened to be at the same beach bar in the same coastal town at the exact same time you were having your little existential crisis. What are the odds? I know how it sounds. Do you? Because it sounds like a bad Lifetime movie. The kind where the husband is the villain and everyone watching at home is screaming at the TV for the wife to take him for everything he's worth. Graham ran his hands through his hair. She was there with friends. Some bachelorette party. We were both surprised to see each other. We started talking. She was going through a breakup. I was going through us. We drank too much, and you slept with her. He nodded. Didn't even have the decency to make eye contact. Twice. 2 nights. I know there's no excuse. I was in a dark place. Oh, spare me the dark place speech. You weren't in a dark place. You were in Wilmington, on a beach, making the conscious decision to betray me while I sat at home eating ice cream and wondering if our marriage was salvageable. I came back, he said weakly. I chose you. I committed to making it work. You committed to lying to me for 9 months, Graham. That's what you committed to. He finally looked up. She texted me 6 weeks later, June 28th, said she needed to talk, that she was pregnant. I did the math in my head. June 28th was 6 weeks after mid-May. Shelby would have been about 6 weeks pregnant. The timeline tracked, unfortunately. And you just believed her? Didn't question it? She said she hadn't been with anyone else, that it had to be mine. She seemed certain. Great detective work, Graham. Real CSI-level investigation you did there. He continued, voice getting smaller. I panicked, asked if she was keeping it. She said yes. Asked if I'd help. I said I would. Financially. That I'd be there for the birth. But I couldn't tell you because you knew I'd leave you immediately. Because I knew it would destroy what we were trying to rebuild. Newsflash, genius, it did anyway. You just delayed the demolition. I stood up, started pacing. My marketing coordinator brain, the part of me that builds campaigns and analyzes data, kicked into overdrive. How much money did you give her? He hesitated. Over the 9 months? About $8,700? $8,700? My voice went up 3 octaves. Graham, we have a joint savings account that you know I check. Where did you get that kind of money? My business account, the one for freelance consulting work. You don't monitor that one. He was right. I didn't. Graham worked as an IT project manager at a logistics company downtown, but he did occasional freelance consulting on the side. Made maybe $10,000 to $15,000 a year extra. Money he mostly spent on golf clubs and craft beer. Apparently, he'd found a more creative use for it. So let me get this straight, I said, my voice dangerously calm. You've been funneling thousands of dollars to your ex-girlfriend. Probably going to doctor's appointments with her. Just 2. The 20-week ultrasound and 1 near the end. Oh, just 2. How restrained of you. And all this time, I'm sitting here thinking we're solid. Thinking we've moved past Brooke. Thinking my biggest problem is whether to get the chicken or the steak at Fleming's for our anniversary dinner last month. Ruby, Did you see the ultrasounds? He nodded. Did you pick out names with her? She asked my opinion. I suggested Emmett. It's my grandfather's name. Of course it is. Of course you gave her your grandfather's name. The grandfather whose pocket watch you promised would go to our future son someday. Remember that conversation, Graham? Because I do. His face crumpled. I never meant for it to go this far. Then what was your end game? Were you planning to tell me when the kid turned 18? At his high school graduation? Surprise, honey? You have a stepson you never knew about? I thought maybe... He trailed off. Maybe what? Maybe she'd lose the baby. Maybe it would resolve itself. The coldness in that statement hit me like a slap. You were hoping for a miscarriage, just so you wouldn't have to be honest with your wife. That's sociopathic, Graham. I know, he whispered. I know how messed up that sounds. I grabbed my phone off the coffee table. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to do a paternity test. Today. Now. Because if I'm going to blow up my entire life over this, I need to know it's even real. Shelby said, I don't care what Shelby said. I care about science. DNA doesn't lie. You do. She clearly does. But DNA? DNA's got integrity. Graham pulled out his phone, started Googling. There's a lab in Raleigh, affordable DNA testing on Glenwood Avenue. They do same-day collection. Results within 48 to 72 hours for $400. Perfect. I'll pay. Because apparently, I'm the only person in this marriage investing in the truth. He made the appointment for 11 that morning. We sat in silence until it was time to leave. I drove him to the lab. Didn't trust him not to chicken out. and waited in the car while he went inside with the baby's cheek swab that Shelby had brought to the hospital. The baby had come about a week early, Graham mentioned as we drove. Not dangerously premature, but early enough that Shelby was caught off guard. 7 pounds even. Healthy. Named Emmett, like Graham had suggested months ago. When he came back from the lab, he looked worse than before. They said results by Friday afternoon. 48 hours, maybe sooner. 2 days, maybe less. To find out if my husband's betrayal came with permanent consequences. We drove home in silence. I moved my stuff to the guest bedroom. Didn't say another word to him that day. Thursday was worse. We moved around the house like ghosts, avoiding each other, waiting for the email that would detonate whatever was left of us. And Friday afternoon, at 3:17 p.m., my phone buzzed. Subject line, DNA test results. Case number 78432. I opened it with shaking hands. The email loaded slowly, like my phone was trying to give me one last moment of blissful ignorance before detonating my life. I stared at the screen, barely breathing. Probability of paternity. 0.0% conclusion. Graham Mitchell is excluded as the biological father of the tested child. 0.00. Not unlikely, not improbable. Absolutely, scientifically, mathematically 0. I read it 3 times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Then I walked into the living room where Graham was sitting on the couch, pretending to watch college basketball, but really just staring into the existential void of his own poor choices. I held out my phone. "You're not the father." He looked up, confused. Took the phone. Read the results. His face went through about 5 different emotions in 3 seconds. Shock, relief, confusion, horror, and then something that looked suspiciously like hope. "I don't understand," he said. "She was so sure. She said, she lied, Graham. Or she was wrong. Or she was sleeping with someone else and decided you were the better option to pin it on. Take your pick." He scrolled through the full report, reading every line like he was searching for a loophole. "This doesn't make sense." She swore up and down. "Call her. Now." His hand shook as he dialed. "Put it on speaker." Shelby answered on the second ring, her voice tired and strained. Background noise suggested she was still at the hospital. "Graham, did you get the results?" "Yeah, Shelby. We need to talk." The test came back negative. 0%. The baby's not mine. Silence on the other end. The kind of silence that screams guilt louder than any confession. "Shelby?" Graham pressed. "Did you hear me?" "I heard you." Her voice was small now, shaky. The confident, desperate woman from Wednesday night had been replaced by someone who knew the jig was up. "So explain to me how that's possible. You told me you hadn't been with anyone else." Another pause. Then quietly, "I was with someone else. That same week in Wilmington." Graham's face went pale. "Who?" "My ex-boyfriend, Landon. We ran into each other that weekend too. Hooked up one night before I saw you at the Oceanic. When I found out I was pregnant, I assumed it was yours. The timing made more sense." "The timing made more sense?" I interjected, unable to stay quiet any longer. "Or the bank account made more sense? Because last I checked, Graham here handed you nearly $9,000 over the last 9 months. What does Landon do for a living, Shelby?" "Let me guess. He's broke?" Silence again. Bingo. "He works at a surf shop," she finally admitted. "Doesn't make much." I panicked. I thought if Graham was the father, at least the baby would be taken care of. Landon's not exactly father material. "So you just made an assumption?" Graham's voice was rising now, anger finally catching up to shock. "Gambled on me being the father without even checking? Strung me along for 9 months? Made me think I had a son? I really thought it was you," Shelby said, crying now. "I didn't mean to." "Does Landon know?" I asked, cutting through her tears. "Does he know he has a kid?" "I told him today, this afternoon, after I saw the test results. He's not interested. Doesn't want anything to do with Emmett." Of course he didn't, because Shelby had impeccable taste in men, a real talent for finding winners. Graham looked like he'd been hit by a truck. "I can't believe this. I destroyed my marriage for a baby that isn't even mine. I lied for 9 months. I gave you $8,700. For nothing. It wasn't for nothing, Shelby protested weakly. I needed help. You needed help from Landon, I snapped. The actual father, not from my husband. I hung up the call, blocked her number on Graham's phone while I was at it, handed it back to him. So, I said, my voice eerily calm. Let me see if I have this straight. You slept with your ex-girlfriend behind my back. Got a call 9 months ago saying she was pregnant. Didn't question it. Didn't verify it. Just started handing over cash and emotional support to a woman who couldn't even be bothered to do basic math on who she'd slept with. All while lying to my face every single day? Did I miss anything? Ruby, I know how bad this looks. Bad? Graham, this is past bad. This is catastrophic. This is relationship Chernobyl. But the baby's not mine, he said, like that was some kind of get-out-of-jail-free card. Doesn't that change things? I mean, there's no kid involved now. We can move forward. I laughed. Actually laughed. The kind of laugh that comes from a place of pure, crystalline disbelief. You think the problem here is the baby? You think I'm upset because you might have had a kid with someone else? Isn't it? No, you absolute walnut. The problem is that you lied to me for 9 months. The problem is that you betrayed me in Wilmington, then betrayed me again by hiding it, then betrayed me a third time by funneling our money to another woman. The baby being yours or not being yours is irrelevant. The betrayal is what matters. He stood up, started pacing. So what are you saying? It's over? Just like that? Just like that? I repeated. Graham, there is no just like that here. This has been building for 9 months. I've just been too stupid to see it. I walked to the guest bedroom, grabbed my laptop, and came back. Opened it on the coffee table. Started Googling divorce attorneys in Raleigh. What are you doing? He asked, panic creeping into his voice. What does it look like? I'm finding a lawyer, because we're done. Ruby, please, can't we talk about this? Go back to Dr. Patricia? I'll do anything. You had 9 months to do anything, Graham. You chose lies. I found 3 attorneys with good reviews, sent consultation requests to all of them. Then I opened our banking app and started documenting every transaction. What are you doing now? He was hovering over my shoulder, watching me screenshot his business account transfers. Gathering evidence. See, in North Carolina, there's this fun legal concept called dissipation of marital assets. Means if you spend a bunch of money on something that doesn't benefit the marriage, say, supporting your ex-girlfriend's fake pregnancy, the court can factor that into asset division. So every dollar you gave Shelby, that's coming out of your half, not mine. His face went white. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm deadly serious. $8,700, Graham. Plus whatever you spent on gas driving to Wilmington for those appointments, plus the emotional damage of lying to me for 9 months while I thought we were rebuilding. I'm not just leaving you, I'm making sure you feel this financially. I called the first attorney Monday morning. Her name was Paige Sullivan, and she had a reputation for being ruthless in divorce proceedings. When I explained the situation, the lies, the money, the fake paternity drama, she practically salivated. This is textbook dissipation, she said, her voice sharp and professional. We'll absolutely use this. North Carolina courts don't look kindly on secret expenditures, especially ones that benefited another woman during the marriage. I can get you a favorable settlement. Graham tried to apologize 17 more times over the next week. Sent flowers, wrote letters, showed up at my office with coffee and croissants from Bolted Bread like carbs could fix 9 months of gaslighting. I ignored all of it. By the end of February, I'd filed for divorce. By March, the court had frozen our joint accounts pending division. By April, I'd moved into a friend's apartment in Durham while we sorted out who got what. And Graham? Graham tried to sue Shelby for fraud, paternity fraud, emotional distress, financial damages. His lawyer was less optimistic than mine. It's hard to prove, the attorney told him. She can claim she genuinely believed you were the father. Good faith mistake, which is exactly what she did. Case dismissed. Landon never stepped up. Shelby's raising Emmett alone, last I heard. But me? I was just getting started. The divorce proceedings were supposed to be straightforward. 50-50 split, Standard North Carolina no-fault divorce. Everyone walks away moderately damaged but financially intact. That was Graham's fantasy anyway. My attorney Paige had other plans. "We're going for dissipation of marital assets," she explained during our second meeting at her office in downtown Raleigh. "Every dollar he gave Shelby came from income earned during the marriage. Doesn't matter that it was in a separate account. North Carolina is an equitable distribution state, which means the court considers all marital property and how it was used. Secret payments to an ex-girlfriend for a child that wasn't even his? That's textbook misuse of funds." I smiled. First genuine smile in weeks. "How much can we get?" "Realistically, 60-40 split in your favor, maybe 65-35 if the judge is feeling particularly unsympathetic to his case. Plus, he'll likely have to cover your legal fees since his actions necessitated the divorce." "I like the way you think, Paige." We filed a motion for forensic accounting of Graham's business account. The court ordered him to produce every transaction from the last 12 months. When the records came back, it was even better than I'd hoped. The $8,700 to Shelby? That was just the beginning. Turns out Graham had also been taking Shelby to prenatal appointments at a private obstetrics practice in Wilmington, Dr. Victoria Hayes. Very upscale, very expensive. He'd paid for her upgraded ultrasounds, the 3D ones where you can see the baby's face in creepy detail. $600 a pop. Paid for her maternity vitamins from some boutique wellness center. $250. Covered her hospital pre-registration fees. Another $400. Total expenditures related to Shelby's pregnancy over 9 months? Just over $10,000. $10,000. On a baby that wasn't his. For a woman who couldn't even be bothered to verify paternity before accepting his money. When Paige presented this evidence to the judge during our preliminary hearing in May, the Honorable Judge Diane Kemper looked at Graham like he'd just admitted to being a cartoon villain. "Mr. Mitchell," she said, peering over her reading glasses, "help me understand. You spent over $10,000 of marital income on another woman's pregnancy, without your wife's knowledge, for a child you now know isn't yours, and you're asking for an equal division of assets?" Graham's attorney, some guy named Preston who charged $300 an hour to be mediocre, tried to argue good faith. "Your Honor, my client genuinely believed he was supporting his biological child. He was acting in what he thought were the child's best interests." "By lying to his wife for 9 months?" Judge Kemper interrupted. "By hiding financial transactions? By maintaining a secret relationship with his ex-girlfriend? That's not good faith, counselor. That's deception." I watched Graham sink lower in his chair. This was better than therapy, better than yoga, better than those revenge fantasies I'd been nursing since February where I imagined keying his car or posting his dirty laundry on Facebook. This was legal, public, documented humiliation. The judge ruled in our favor. 65-35 asset split. Graham had to cover my legal fees, $4,200 and counting. The house in Cary? I got to stay through the end of the lease in June. He had to find somewhere else to live. He moved in with his brother Seth in Charlotte. Again, because apparently Seth's guest bedroom was Graham's default setting for when his life fell apart. But wait, it gets better. Remember Brooke? The coworker he had the emotional affair with that started this whole disaster? She'd been quietly watching our marriage implode from the sidelines, and in late March, she made her move. I found out through a mutual friend who worked at Graham's company. Brooke started bringing Graham coffee, staying late to help him with projects, offering a sympathetic ear about his difficult divorce. By early May, they were dating, officially. Graham updated his Facebook relationship status and everything. Because nothing says, "I've learned from my mistakes," like immediately jumping into a relationship with the woman who contributed to destroying your marriage in the first place. The irony was so thick you could spread it on toast. I called my friend Tegan, the one whose Durham apartment I'd been crashing in, and we laughed until we cried. "He's dating Brooke?" she gasped between fits of laughter. "The same Brooke from the emotional affair? The one he swore meant nothing?" "The very same. Turns out she meant something after all. She meant next terrible decision. How long do you think they'll last?" 6 months max. The second Graham shows any sign of emotional unavailability, which, let's be real, is his default mode. She'll bail. Women like Brooke aren't interested in doing the work. They want the fantasy. I was wrong, by the way. They lasted 5 months, broke up in early September. Something about Brooke wanting more commitment and Graham still being emotionally recovering from the divorce. According to LinkedIn, she's dating someone from accounting now. An upgrade, presumably. Meanwhile, I was thriving. Got a promotion at work in June. Senior marketing coordinator, 12% raise, corner office with actual windows. Signed a lease on a gorgeous 2-bedroom townhouse in Durham's 9th Street district in July. Exposed brick, hardwood floors, walking distance to Coco Cinnamon and Pizzeria Toro. The kind of place Graham and I could never afford together because he was too busy funneling cash to his fake baby mama. I adopted a dog in August. A rescue golden retriever named Otis. 3 years old, dopey grin, unconditional love, zero capacity for betrayal. Perfect. Started dating again in September. Nothing serious. Coffee dates with guys from Hinge who had their lives together. One guy, Barrett, was a UNC professor. Smart, funny, emotionally available. We went out 4 times before I realized I wasn't ready for anything serious yet. He understood. We're still friends. And Graham? Graham's living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Charlotte's South End, working the same job, driving the same car, living the same life minus the wife and the $10,000 he lit on fire for Shelby's benefit. I heard through Seth, who, bless him, stayed neutral and occasionally texted me to make sure I was okay, that Graham tried to reconnect with Shelby in July. Not romantically. He just wanted to check on Emmett, make sure the baby was okay. She blocked his number. Told him to leave her alone, that he had no legal right to contact her or her son, which legally speaking she was absolutely correct. He wasn't the father. He had no claim, no rights, no relationship. He'd spent 9 months building a connection to a child that was never his, with a woman who used him for a paycheck while destroying the one real relationship he actually had. The poetic justice was so perfect, it could have been a Shakespearean tragedy. Except in this version, I was the one who got the happy ending. In November, I ran into Graham at a Harris Teeter in Durham. He was buying frozen dinners and beer. I was buying fresh flowers and ingredients for coq au vin because I'd taken up cooking as a hobby and discovered I was actually good at it. He looked at my cart, looked at me, said, "You look good, Ruby." "I know," I replied. "Turns out not being lied to for 9 months does wonders for your complexion." He winced. "Deserved it." "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "For everything. I know it doesn't change anything, but I really am sorry." I looked at him. This man I'd spent years building a life with, who threw it all away for lies and cowardice and a misplaced sense of obligation to the wrong person, and felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness. Just a vague sense of relief that he was someone else's problem now. Or, more accurately, his own problem. "I appreciate that, Graham. I hope you figure your life out." And I walked away. Didn't look back. Bought the flowers. Made the coq au vin. Fed some to Otis, who appreciated it more than Graham ever appreciated anything I did. 3 days later, I got the final divorce decree in the mail. Signed, sealed, legally binding. I was officially free. I framed it, hung it in my kitchen. Best piece of art I own. So here's what I learned from the great baby that wasn't even his disaster of this year. Trust your gut, demand proof, and never underestimate the power of a good forensic accountant. Also, men will really do anything except go to therapy. It's been almost a year since that 3 a.m. phone call that detonated my marriage. A year since I discovered my husband had a secret life that would have made a decent Netflix limited series if it weren't so pathetically predictable. And honestly, best thing that ever happened to me. I know that sounds like something people say when they're trying to convince themselves they're over it, but I mean it. That marriage was a slow leak I kept trying to patch instead of just abandoning the sinking ship. Graham's betrayal didn't break me. It freed me. My life now is objectively better in every measurable way. Better apartment. The Durham townhouse has a clawfoot tub and a backyard where Otis can chase squirrels. Better job. That promotion came with actual respect from my team and projects I'm excited about. Better mental health. Turns out not being gaslighted daily does wonders for your anxiety levels. I even started a small side business doing freelance marketing consulting for local Durham startups. Made an extra $8,000 last year. You know what I did with it? Took myself to Charleston for a long weekend. Stayed at a boutique hotel. Ate shrimp and grits at 3 different restaurants. Didn't answer to anyone. That $8,000 felt better than any of the money Graham spent on Shelby's fake paternity drama. As for Graham, last I heard from Seth, who still texts me occasionally because Seth is a fundamentally decent human who got stuck with a disaster of a brother, he's doing exactly what you'd expect. Still in Charlotte, still at the same job, still making the same salary. Except now he's paying spousal support. Not for Emmett, obviously. For his bad financial decisions. The court ordered him to pay me spousal support for 18 months starting from the final decree, about $700 a month. Not a ton, but enough that every time he writes that check, he has to think about what he lost. It's the gift that keeps on giving. He's not dating anyone seriously. Brooke moved on to someone with better emotional availability and a functioning moral compass. Shelby blocked him permanently after he showed up at her apartment in Wilmington trying to be there for Emmett, even after the paternity test proved the kid wasn't his. Apparently, he developed some kind of phantom father syndrome, felt connected to a baby he'd never actually had a relationship with except through lies and Venmo transfers. Shelby, for her part, is still raising Emmett alone. Landon never stepped up, which surprises absolutely no one who's ever met a guy who works at a surf shop and calls it a lifestyle choice. She posts photos on Instagram sometimes. The baby's cute. I'll give her that. But she made her account private after Graham's unsuccessful lawsuit. Last I heard through the Triangle area gossip mill, she moved back in with her parents in Jacksonville. And me? I'm dating someone. His name is Forrest. He's an architect, designs sustainable housing, volunteers at the food bank on weekends, has never once lied about having a secret baby. We met at a farmer's market in October. He was buying heirloom tomatoes. I was buying apple cider. Otis tried to steal his breakfast burrito. Romance for the modern age. It's early. We're taking it slow. But here's what I know. When Forrest says he's going to call, he calls. When he says he's working late, I can verify it because he's not a liar. When his phone rings at 3 in the morning, which it hasn't, because he doesn't have a chaotic ex-girlfriend with boundary issues, I won't have to wonder if my entire relationship is built on sand. The bar is on the floor, yes, but at least I know where the floor is now. People ask me if I'm bitter, if I regret the years I spent with Graham, if I wish I'd seen the signs earlier, the emotional affair, the suspicious trip to Wilmington, the way he kept his phone face down on every surface. Honestly, no, because that disaster taught me something crucial. I'd rather be alone than be with someone who treats honesty like it's optional. I'd rather start over at 33 than waste another decade on someone who thinks love means hiding the truth to avoid consequences. Graham didn't just lose a wife. He lost someone who would have fought for him if he'd been honest. Someone who would have worked through the Wilmington mistake if he'd come clean in May, instead of lying for 9 months. Someone who actually valued the marriage he was so eager to throw away. His loss. Genuinely. These days, when my phone rings at 3 in the morning, which it doesn't, because I have healthy boundaries and a functional alarm system, I sleep through it, because the only person who needs me at 3 a.m. is Otis, and that's usually just because he heard a raccoon in the backyard. No drama, no lies, no secret pregnancies that turn out to be someone else's problem. Just me, my dog, my career, my townhouse, and the hard-won knowledge that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing in disguise. Turns out the baby wasn't his. But the freedom? That's all mine.